right to self-determination as a contribution to conflict prevention. We have a panel here consisting of a number of persons coming from different countries with different interest groups. We have Tiro Choti, who represents the International Council of Eelam Families. And he will speak on the 104-day resolution, which is a common base for practically all Eelam families. We have Said Faiz Naqshbandi, who is not yet come. He is the president of International Center for Human Rights and Peace in Geneva. We have Abida Mohammed Hussein, who belongs to the NOMA group, which means no to active violence in Western Sahara. We have Baban Eliassi, who is representing the Kurds. And we have Ahmed Muqtada Sad, who is representing Yemen, South Yemen. And finally, we have Sivapalan Kazinada, who is an attorney at law and who represents the Northeast Secretariat on Human Rights. My own name is Peter Schack. I'm a retired professor in the history of religion, and I have been active for the Eelam Tamils. Thank you. So the first to speak is Tiro Choti on the 104-day resolution. Please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure of being in this institution, which in 1948 declared the Human Rights Declaration. So the right of the people to decide for themselves. We, the Eelam Tamils, had our own sovereignty before being colonized by the British. Our sovereignty was dismantled, for me it was dismantled and incorporated into the state called Sri Lanka. So today I am here to talk about, do the people have the right to decide for themselves? The Human Rights Declaration says, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, peace in the world. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear, and one has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas it is essential that if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, the human rights should be protected by the rule of law. But when the rule of law in states fails, people should have the right to decide for themselves. So, in Sri Lanka, in 1976, when the Vatukota Resolution was declared, the Vatukota Resolution was the right of self-determination of the Tamil people. When the Vatukotte resolution was proposed by political parties in Sri Lanka and voted in 1977, it was because the state of Sri Lanka failed to protect the Tamil people. They failed on their duty. And for myself, the United Nations also failed. That's why the Tamil people in Sri Lanka went on asking for the right of self-determination, the right to live alone, peacefully in their own homeland. So today, the Eelam Tamil people, we are in the 40th year of the Vatukotte resolution, where the Tamil people expressed their right for self-determination, and they decided for themselves after nearly 30 years of tyranny and oppression, which led to the declaration 40 years ago deciding to live freely in their homeland and to create an independent state. Every time a state fails, the people decide their own rights. We have seen that all over the world in different periods. Everyone might say, this is a 40-year-old story. And today, in 2016, why this is being brought forward? It is because 1977 was the last time when the Tamils could express freely their right to live, to vote, before the Sri Lankan state amended the constitution and brought forward a constitution which was unable for the people to talk freely. As the state of Sri Lanka, without consultation with the Tamil people, passed an amendment which is known to everyone as the 6th Amendment, preventing the freedom of expression of the people. The freedom to express political opinions, to seek to persuade others of their merits, to seek to have the represented in Parliament, and thereafter seek Parliament to give effect to them, are all fundamental to democracy itself. These are precisely the freedoms which recognizes and guarantees, and in respect of advocacy for the establishment of an independent Tamil state in Sri Lanka, those which the 6th Amendment is designed to outlaw. That means we couldn't talk about separation, we couldn't talk about freedom. If therefore appears to be plain that this enactment constitutes a clear violation by Sri Lanka of its obligation in international law under the Covenant before the 6th Amendment was passed, the Tamil United Liberation Front was the largest opposition party in Parliament, and its effect has therefore been to increase the United National Party's majority from the previous 83 to 93%. According to the President, can now hardly be surprised if his opponents, both within the country and outside, regard the 6th Amendment as nothing more than a piece of political chicanery designed to move Sri Lanka even further towards a party state. It was told by Paul Chiat in 1984 in his declaration, Sri Lanka, a mounting tragedy of terrors, reports of a mission to Sri Lanka in January 1984 on behalf of the International Commission of Jurists and its British section Justice. It was after this, when the whole world were watching as spectators, Sri Lanka committed the 1983 genocide, which led to the youngsters to take arms to protect the land and the rights of the Tamil people, as told in the preamble of the Human Rights Declaration. It says, when human rights is not defended, people are enforced to defend themselves. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as last resort to rebel against tyranny and oppression, the human rights should be protected by the rule of law. The rule of law in Sri Lanka didn't protect the Tamil people. Sadly, the Tamil victims to geopolitics met into another genocide from 2006 to 2009 through a war supported by several countries and the United Nations watching as spectators. As the United Nations mission was removed from the warland in the Tamil region during the times of war, it was a war without witness. So it was only in February 2010 that Gordon Weiss, who until the end of 2009 was the UN spokesman in Colombo, has suggested the figure may be much higher. A lot of civilians died inside the siege zone. I have heard anything between 10 and 40,000 people, and that's from reliable sources who had a presence inside the zone. So you should understand, even the UN officer on post in Sri Lanka till 2009 was not free to mention that there was killing going on and there was more than 40,000 people killed. So we are in a state today where there has been lots of reports by the UN. The Chalpatri report says the UN failed. It failed to defend the Tamil people in Sri Lanka. So today we are witnessing a situation that the world are spectators, the UN is who should protect the people, were spectators, and then after the war they say, sorry, it happened. So why today, after 40 years of the Vattikotte resolution, we are bringing it back to the table? All remember in October last year, the UN presented a resolution that there should be inquiry in Sri Lanka through a hybrid court with international judges and lawyers and investigators. But since October 2001 till today, Sri Lanka has done nothing. So what we feel, Sri Lanka is failing again. It is failing again in all international institutions. Sri Lanka is trying to play the world that we are working on a new constitution, whereas the people are living in refugee camps under armed surveillance, on armed occupation, and when the UN has declared, the Human Rights Council has declared there should be an inquiry, Sri Lanka is taking time. So for us, Sri Lanka is failing, and for us, the constitutional change of Sri Lanka for us for the moment is not important, rather than the Tamils have to live freely, to be able to develop our own selves, to move forward, to voice freely our expression. So today we are back on the table again, telling the world that when a state fails, the people have the right to decide for themselves. So we, the Tamils of Eelam Tamils living the island of Sri Lanka, because I don't recognize Sri Lanka as my state, I only live in that land because I have my homeland, which is called Eelam. So we are calling that we have to decide, the people have to decide
That's why we have the 40th year of the Vatukota resolution is to bring back to memory that it was the last time that people decided for themselves. Thank you.